I've been making the chairs squeak.
Larger, come get inspired. Larger, feel like a star. Larger, here we're all equal. Larger, it'll make you fall. Larger, the legs off the larger. Come have some fun. Larger, she's the one. Larger, you know where to come.
Hey, Curvies! What's good? What's good? What's good? Thanks for coming in. Let me flip this camera. Hi. How are you guys doing? I wasn't planning on flipping the camera right now, but I did, so there. I can flip it back. I don't know. Can you guys still hear me that way? Let me make sure. Does it even say I'm live? I'm not showing me as live, you guys. Mute. Close. Close. Happy Sunday! It's halfway mark, y'all. It's the halfway mark. It's the halfway mark. Apollo wants some attention, you guys. He keeps reposting clips from his interview that we listened to some of yesterday. From his and yeah. Bianca, thanks for coming through. Thanks for being you. I love you. Right on. So we're talking about something different, but I'll be adding some other little topics through that we usually talk about. But one thing about me, Curvies, is part of why I love singing so much is I grew up on freaking musicals. Grew up. Oh, right on. Happy Sunday, beautiful. Did you go look at Cars already? Did you go look at Cars? Did you pick one? I don't know why I just did that. I guess it needed to be done. This actually feels pretty good. So what was I talking about? Damn. Broadway. So part of LRGA Curves. Getting to know me. Getting to know all about me. I love music. I love musicals. I got the music in me, you guys. I love instruments, singing, dancing. I call myself a musically inclined person. Like anything to do with a beat, rhythm, melody, I'm there. That's my vibe. You know what I'm saying? And so I love Broadway. I love Broadway. Now, I love a good musical. And these ladies up here that we're looking at, Keisha Lewis, who just got nominated, her Hell's Kitchen just got nominated. And then we have Patti LuPone, who's been in like, was it 28 Broadway plays? And Keisha Lewis has been in 10 Broadway productions. And then we have Audra McDonald over here. Now, I know her from The Good Wife, and then The Good Fight. Was that The Good Fight that she was in with Diane Lockhart? And then, no, it was another one. It was another one where she was like a black lawyer and her dad had the firm, but then they took it from her dad. And then Diane Lockhart came in and wanted to make it into a women's firm instead of a black firm. And the lady was kind of willing to go along with it. And that was kind of, I was like, that sounds like the 1964 civil rights thing. Like how it go from a real minority to like general. Anyway, so I know Audra McDonald from acting things. And there is a Broadway presentation going on right now called Who You Calling a Bitch? Okay? Because Lupone, the lady in the middle, Patti LuPone, did an interview And the interview, she didn't have to bring up everything, but I guess she just got on a good tear and decided that, hey, let me bring this stuff up, because she did. And she talked about famous directors, famous producers, fellow actresses, fellow actors, and she kept it pretty civil. I mean, as abrasive as she was, she kept it civil. She didn't call anybody out of their name. And then she gets to Keisha Lewis and gets asked about the Hell's Kitchen, actress, says that she's a vet. And she's like, that bitch is no vet. I'm a real vet. Like, put some respect on my name, to Keisha Lewis. So Audra McDonald, and then she had something to say about Audra McDonald too. That was far more abrasive than anything she said about Glenn Close, or even the guy that she sued and used settlement to do something else. So anyway, so we're going to listen to that. And you guys are going to have to listen fast, because I'm going to put it on 2 times so we can get to it. Because then, after that interview went viral, because Patti Lupone, right? And doesn't she kind of give you like, I want to be Liza Minnelli? That's what I'm getting. I'm getting Liza Minnelli 2.0, Judy Garland rebrand. Like, yeah, kind of Barbara Streisand-y, but Barbara Streisand's not a, she used to be on Broadway a lot. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for the love. Thanks for the love. I love you guys too. So anyway, so then Audra McDonald and Keisha Lewis did an open letter response to the interview that Patti LaBelle was calling these black goddesses bitches in, and got 500 signatures from fellow actresses and fellow actors in the Broadway community that co-signed on what these 2 sisters were saying about this middle lady's very abrasive, disgusting, disrespectful demeanor has gone unchecked for far too long, because now here you come, who you calling a bitch, Patty? And over here at LRGA Curves, we're like, really, bitch? Really, bitch? The t-shirts are coming today. Really, bitch? Of all the people in the whole thing, like, you feel that willy-nilly, like that relaxed with these 2 sister goddesses? Really, bitch? So they did an open letter, who you calling a bitch? And then Patty does a sorry, not sorry. I'm like, who wrote this? The people that wrote Stassi Schroeder's and Kirsten Dowdy's and Jax Taylor's sorry, not sorries after they terrorized Faith Stowers over on did I call her Stowers too? You know who I'm talking about. No, I called her Schroeder. Okay, call me crazy. Before I came on here, I did my cinnamon ritual, right? And anybody who knows that on the 1st of the month, you wash your hands in cinnamon, right? Well, I take it a step further. I bring it up here to the Zen Den and I sprinkle my office with cinnamon, because it's abundance and good energy. So I have cinnamon everywhere, but I also have a fan on. And so I'm like feeling the particulate matter of cinnamon right now. Sorry, you guys. I talk about Portia's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I guess game recognized game. Huh? Game recognized game. What's up, gang gang? So anyway, so we're going to start with listening to, if it'll open, we're going to listen to the Patti Lupone of it all. Patti Lupone. See if this will open and play. Michael, long time no see. Yes. I don't know if you're that Michael though. But thanks for popping in. So, okay, so here's the open letter. Here's her interview. Let's see if this will open and play for us. It's from the New Yorker magazine. The article is by Michael Schulman. It dropped on May 26, 2025. They did their response on May 31st, I believe. We'll go ahead and see that next. So the New Yorker article starts with Patti LuPone is done with Broadway and almost everything else. The 76-year-old theater diva, famed and feared for her salty bravado, dishes on Hal Prince, her non-friendship with Audra McDonald, and Sexy But Dumb New York Rangers by Michael Schumann. So she put Audra, that's the lady in the pink in this picture right here. She put Audra, she gets a byline in the freaking title about her ugh for Audra. Okay, her ugh for Audra. Really, Patty? Her non-friendship with Audra McDonald? I need you guys to turn in your books to the chapter of the New Yorker and take a look there. I'm not telling you to subscribe or spend your money, but if you can get if you can get I don't know what did he say, Bianca, because I can put him on a permanent timeout. Look, bruh. Look, bruh. Look. Look. Yeah, you can kick rocks, Mike. You can either keep it cute or you can kick rocks. I give you one more time again. Okay? Anyway, so yeah, turning your devices to the book of the New Yorker. And you'll see this Patti LuPone interview that we're about to hopefully be able to listen to here. Yep. So it says it's going to take 37 minutes if we listen to it on the normal speed. So I'm going to kick it up and you let me know if it's too fast or you can't hear it correctly. Okay? Let's go. Yeah, so if you turn in your books to the New York, Patty LuPone. Okay.
Profiles, published in the New Yorker with the headline, Patti LuPone is done with Broadway and almost everything else.
Can you hear it okay?
Written by Michael Schulman
Okay.
and read by an automated voice. In the New Yorker with the headline, Patti LuPone stood in a Midtown recording studio one spring afternoon talking to Carrie Bradshaw. LuPone, who descends from what she calls Sicilian peasant stock, had filmed an arc on the upcoming season of And Just Like That. As
Can you hear it
Italian
okay,
mama
Bianca?
Giuseppe, Sebastiano Pigazzi, the young boyfriend of Carrie's gay pal, Anthony, Mario Cantoni. She was now recording some dialogue tweaks in post-production. On a monitor, her character, Gianna, was greeting Carrie at a party. At the microphone, LuPone tried out different line readings. Ciao, imperious. Ciao, warm. Ciao, ciao, sprightly. Just fill it up a little bit, the showrunner, Michael Patrick King, instructed. I like your dress very much. Very pretty, LuPone purred in an Italian accent. Shit, now I have to call the Writers Guild, King joked about her ad-lib. They moved on to a scene in which Gianna spars with Anthony in his apartment. King had written LuPone a saucy exit line, Questo corridoio puzza, which translates to, this hallway stinks. LuPone gave him options, punching her P's. Questo corridoio puzza, pugnacious. Questo corridoio puzza, droll. Questo corridoio puzza, revolted. When they wrapped, King told her, you are a delight. Thank you for including me, honest to God, LuPone said. And just, think of me, because I don't want to be on stage anymore. Period.
This was almost like a queen proclaiming her abdication. Lupone is Broadway's reigning grande dame, with a big voice and an even bigger mouth. She's one of the city's last living broads, brassy, belty, and profane, with the ferocity of a bullet train coming right at you. She's as famous for playing musical theater's Iron Ladies, Eva Peron in Evita, Rose in Gypsy, as she is for her offstage rumbles. She's fought with Andrew Lloyd Webber, who in the 90s replaced her with Glenn Close in his musical Sunset Boulevard. Lupone trashed her dressing room, sued his company, and used part of the settlement to build herself a pool, which she christened the Andrew Lloyd Webber Memorial Swimming Pool. She's fought with co-stars. In her memoir, she called Bill Smitrovich, who played her husband on the TV drama Life Goes On, a thoroughly distasteful man. Smitrovich. She's a very, very guileful woman. She has even fought with audience members. She once palmed a cell phone from a texter's hand, mid-play. In 2022, during a talkback for the musical Company, she berated a spectator. Put your mask over your nose. That is the rule. If you don't want to follow the rule, get the fuck out. Ask her about Madonna, a movie killer, or Real Housewives. I really don't want to know about those trashy lives. And you'll get a zinger worthy of Bette Davis, one of her heroines, along with Edith Piaf. I prefer the flawed to the perfect, she told me. Her bluntness has made her a kind of urban folk hero. On the Tony Awards red carpet in 2017, she declared that she would never perform for President Trump. Asked why, she responded, "Because I hate the motherfucker. How's that?" The clip went viral. At 76, Lupone has acquired an unlikely cool factor. Since winning her second Tony, for Gypsy in 2008, she's played herself on Glee and Girls, a bathhouse singer on American Horror Story, and an occultist on Penny Dreadful. And she's voiced a yellow giant on the cult sitcom Steven Universe, and a socialite mouse on BoJack Horseman. The indie director Ari Aster cast her as a Harridan mother in Beau is Afraid, and last year she joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a witch in Agatha All Along. She doesn't give a shit about what anyone thinks. Her coven mate Aubrey Plaza told me last fall, Plaza ended up living in her apartment at Lupone's urging while making her off-Broadway debut. She basically kept me alive, Plaza said. I would wake up and she would be making me soup. One morning, she was carving a turkey and she would go, "Doll, I have to go out of town for some gigs, but I'm going to carve this up and put it in the fridge, and you're going to make sandwiches with it throughout the week." Bridget Everett, the raunchy alt cabaret performer who starred in HBO's Somebody Somewhere, met Lupone through the director and lyricist Scott Whitman. Lupone brought Everett on stage at Carnegie Hall for a duet, and they're now developing a double act called Knockouts. You think of her as the greatest living Broadway legend, Everett told me. You don't think of her as a person. So when all of a sudden you're out in the country and she hops in the pool buck naked, you're like, okay, there's Patti Lupone. Let's roll. After her dubbing session, Lupone collected her crocodile purse and got into an SUV on 8th Avenue. As it lurched past the theater district, she explained why she is, at least for now, done with Broadway. "I'm so angry at whoever choked the stem right in the middle by making Times Square a pedestrian mall," she said. When she was starring in Company, Lupone would carry a bullhorn and yell at pedestrians from her car window.
Hey, one
"It's
who
impossible
cares.
for us to get to work," she told me. And I said that years ago, so I start work angry. I can't get to my theater because of the traffic pattern, because of the arrogance of the people in the streets. It's a road. Get out of the street. She preferred the gritty old New York of the...
So we are listening to, oh yeah, copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, fair use is made. Okay, so we're doing the copyright disclaimer for this New Yorker article by Michael Schulman. We are sharing it and we are doing commenting, research. Okay, we're researching what to do when somebody calls you a bitch in a freaking article in the New Yorker. Okay, and then you get an open letter over it. So the thumbnail for this had Broadway beef minus Lupone's interview plus open letter with 500 signatures equals sorry, not sorry. So right now we're listening to what started it all with which is the interview with Patti Lupone, and she is going to talk about the byline is her non-friendship with Audra, who we love, and then she further in the interview calls Keisha Lewis specifically a bitch for referring to herself, who's been in 10 Broadway plays and currently the number one musical on Broadway, Hell's Kitchen, called her a bitch for calling herself a vet or something. Anyway, let's finish listening to it. Thanks everybody for coming through. Make sure you smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, ring the bell, share the video, beat the heart. You know your girl LRGA Curves is welcoming any cash apps, any Venmos, any type of support like that is always welcome. I don't ever ask, and God said, well, if you don't ask, you can't expect nothing. It's sitting there, but you didn't ever say nothing. So I'm letting you know that should you feel like you want to participate in contributing to the support of the channel, then that would be excellente and welcome. Okay? So let's get back to this. And I know this isn't our usual content over here, so in a minute, I'll give you some other stuff. Palaver Girl, what's good? Happy Sunday. Thanks for coming through. We are getting ready to restart this interview in the New Yorker with Patti LuPone. And maybe you overheard that. We're getting ready to play it out. Thank you guys for coming through.
60s and 70s, when she moved from Long Island to make her name. Sure, the city was broke. Sure, there were muggers. Once, when a stranger groped her friend near Grant's tomb, Lupone turned she-lion, her word, and shrieked at the guy until he fled into Riverside Park. Sure, she heard a scream of death one night outside her window in Chelsea and knew that somebody was getting murdered. But the city was bankrupt, dangerous, and creative, she insisted. Now it's all gone corporate, including the theater, which she worries has reverted to the gaiety phase of Broadway, when it was just Follies and Ziegfeld girls.
Corey Berman, thanks for coming through.
She told me more than once that the
packing.
simplified Kennedy Center should get blown up. In the SUV, apropos the current administration, she pronounced, leave New York alone, make it its own country. I mean, is there any other city in America that's as diverse, as in your face? It's a live or die city. It really is. Stick it out or leave. The car dropped her off at a restaurant on the Upper West Side. She asked for sherry. She discovered it while doing Les Miserables in England in the 80s. But the bartender said that they didn't carry it, so she settled for a glass of rosé with a side of ice cubes. In person, Lupone is fun-seeking and dishy. She recalled
no way. Thanks, Bianca.
Samson and Delilah
Thank you so much. The phone that it would show up on is the one we're recording on, so I wouldn't even get the ding. Thank you so much. Love you.
A male and a female, and a bowl of fruit on the bed. And all I could concentrate on was that bowl of fruit. And when they were going to the floor, she let out a big
okay. Sorry, Michael. You can come back if that wasn't rude.
The whole city is so fucking loud, she groused. People have forgotten that they're in public. She leaned over to
Sorry
ask
about that, Michael.
politely but firmly, ladies, excuse me. Do you mind?
So, Palaver, are you saying that when Michael earlier said, Michael Guten Abend Zuzamin, that he was just saying hi? I don't know what comment got retracted, but something else had got retracted. And Michael, if you're still lurking, if you're a bushwhacker right now, you can come back. I'm sorry. See, I need a translator. That's all I need is a good translator. Thanks, Palaver. Sorry about that, Michael. Let me see. Let me try to remember what that said. It says... Michael Guten Abend Zusammen. Michael Guten Abend Zusammen. And his last name is Kreigler. And that is very Haagen-Dazs, right? You know. That. Anyway, sorry about that misunderstanding. Thanks, Palaver.
Keeping it down just a little bit. We're trying to have a conversation. They obeyed. Lupone ordered a fried artichoke sliced in half. I have a love-hate relationship with New York because of what it forces you to face, she went on. She likes that New Yorkers can sniff out a bullshit. But her intolerance to bullshit gets her into trouble. On a woman, they don't like that smell, she said. People ask, why am I a gay icon? I go, don't ask me, ask them. But I think they see a struggle in me, or how I've overcome a struggle. What else am I going to do? She picked apart the artichoke with her fingers.
Thanks for being here, Mel.
What was going on since I was 4, she said, again punching her peas. The question was always, why? The answer was not permitted. To this day, if I express myself in a way that somebody doesn't like, they will say, oh, that's Patti. She lowered her voice and narrowed her eyes like a tigress ready to pounce. What the fuck are you talking about? What do you know about me that you can say, well, that's Patty, and yet I never stopped asking the question, why? Lupone bristles when people call her a diva, which they do often. I know what I'm worth to a production, she said, her lips skewing diagonally in agitation. I know that I'm box office. Don't nickel and dime me before you put me on stage. Don't treat me like a piece of shit, because at this point, if you don't value me, why am I there? If Lupone is the New Yorkiest of Broadway stars, it's not just because of her powerhouse voice. It's because she fights her own battles, the way the city makes you fight through rush hour crowds. But she didn't ask for it to be this way. Why do I have to fight? She asked herself, tearing out the artichoke's heart. What am I learning in this life that I'm atoning for from the last one? What is it that forces me to fight? Seriously, why wasn't it easier? Lupone's many oft-recounted struggles began at 4 years old, when she wandered off her family's property in Northport, Long Island, to visit a friend. Crossing a field, she got sidetracked by some birds and butterflies. They're looking all over the place for you, her friend's father yelled when she arrived. When I got home, I saw police cars and fire engines, and I hid under my bed, she recalled. When they found me, I got a serious spanking with no explanation. There was no dialogue. You did the wrong thing. Smack, smack. But why? The Lupones lived on an apple orchard amid subdivided farmland. Northport back then was a small fishing village. At one point, the mayor was also the funeral director, with boggy wetlands and rocky bluffs overlooking the bay. Johnny Carson would sometimes moor his yacht there, and Lupone would buzz it with her father's boat, shouting, "Johnny!" Hi. It was a bucolic place to grow up, but Lupone sensed a menacing energy, what she called the town's deep underbelly. A furtive darkness ran in her family too. Her mother's parents, the Patties, her first name is her mother's maiden name, were immigrant bootleggers. Their sewing room had removable floorboards to hide whiskey. Late in life, Lupone learned that her maternal grandfather had been murdered in 1927, possibly with her grandmother's collusion. One newspaper reported that his body had been found in a pool of blood caused by 3 wounds in his head. All I knew was that, growing up, every Sunday, my mother would call my grandmother, and the two of them would talk in Italian, and my mother would be crying her eyes out, Lupone said. Why? Her father, Orlando, was the principal of her elementary school, and her mother, who went by Pat, played the part of a Long Island housewife, Lupone said. Being a principal's wife required a hostess element, a facade because she had to entertain the teachers. Once overhearing her parents fight, Lupone packed her books in a suitcase, stood at the kitchen door, and declared, "Goodbye, cruel world." Her parents divorced when she was 12, after Pat discovered that Orlando was having an affair with a substitute teacher. Lupone remembers her mother herding her and her older twin brothers, Bobby and Billy, into a car and driving to a nearby town. We snuck up to this house and looked in the basement window, and there was my dad sitting in a chair, and this woman sitting at his knees. And my mother put her fist through the cellar window, she said. She didn't see her father again for decades. My brothers were freaked out more than I was, Lupone recalled. I said to Bobby, "Honey, we're free to pursue show business now. Daddy wanted us to be teachers." I was like, "No thanks." Pat drove her daughter to voice lessons, informing her that her great-grandaunt was the 19th century coloratura Adelina Patti. Lupone and her brothers had a dance group, the Lupone Trio, which performed on Ted Mack's The Original Amateur Hour. They had an adagio act, her childhood friend Philip Caggiano said. Bobby would heave Patty into the air, and Billy would catch her. At school, she immersed herself in music, singing Haydn with the chorus and playing sousaphone in the marching band. I remember in the cafeteria of our junior high school saying, "I want to sing just like Earl Wrightson," Caggiano recalled. And Patty said, "I want to sing like Patti Lupone." She knew that she had a Broadway-sized voice, but she was a closet rocker or a closet groupie, she said. One New Year's Eve, she and a friend drove upstate to Saugerties in a blizzard to find the band, and we got so close. She moved to Manhattan at 18 and spent a year partying at discotheques, then joined the inaugural class of the drama division at Juilliard, where her brother, Bobby, had studied dance. The drama program was run by the legendary actor-producer John Houseman, who had worked with Orson Welles. Lupone said, John Houseman went out and found 36 of the craziest people he could find to see whether he could strip down their personalities and create a Juilliard actor. The training was incoherent. One teacher would espouse one method. Renee Aubergenois told them, acting is fucking, only to land a gig and be replaced by another teacher with a conflicting method. Of the original class, 13 graduated. They wanted to throw me out of school, so they threw all sorts of roles in my direction to make me fail as an actor. But what they did was train one actor in versatility, Lupone likes to say. Houseman criticized her diction, calling her flannel mouth, hence her compensatory over-enunciation, and once told her that she had the smell of the gallows. It was a compliment, but she was too intimidated to ask what it meant. I cried myself to sleep every night my first year, she said. Her third year, 3 advanced students joined the class. One was Kevin Kline. I took an instant dislike to him, Lupone recalled. He looked like Pinocchio to me. He had skinny legs and he was tall, and I didn't really see the handsomeness. That changed one day in art appreciation class when they sat together in the back and started feeling each other up, Lupone said. Their turbulent on and off relationship lasted 7 years. He was a Lothario, she recalled. It was a painful relationship. I was his girlfriend when he wanted me to be his girlfriend. But if there was somebody else, he would break up with me and go out with that person. And I, for some reason, stuck it out until I couldn't stick it out anymore. Klein remembered the relationship as fraught. We fought all the time, he told me. In the company, we were known as the Strindbergs. After graduation in 1972, the drama class formed a repertory troupe called the Acting Company. They'd do comedy of manners in Saratoga, Chekhov, and Omaha. Patty was always pissed that whenever there was a whore to play, she usually got the whore's part. Her classmate Sam Seltsuvas remembered. The troupe also played Broadway, where in 1975, Lupone and Klein starred in the musical The Robber Bridegroom. She received her first Tony nomination the same season that her brother Bobby was nominated for playing the director in a chorus line. After 4 years, she and 10 other company members rebelled against their overseers and quit en masse. Like America breaking away from the British Empire, Seltsuvas said. While touring, Lupone had met the young playwright David Mamet, who cast her, Klein, and Seltsuvas in his play All Men Are Whores at Yale Cabaret. Lupone felt at home with Mamet's dialogue. Its raw aggression gave language to her own. The writing, once I understood the rhythm, became the easiest thing to speak, she said. I learned more about acting from David Mamet than I learned in 4 years at Juilliard. Despite their divergent politics,
There it goes, Mel. You just said
their
Juilliard.
collaboration has endured. In response to several written questions, Mamet sent me back the following. Opening night on Broadway of The Old Neighborhood, I was looking for Patty around 7 p.m. and found her on stage asleep in the kitchen counter of the set. I understood it as a Sicilian panic attack. In 1979, Lupone won the role of Eva Perón, the power-hungry First Lady of Argentina, in Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical Evita. It was, she recalled, a vitriolic experience.
Is that too
So
fast?
that she blew out her voice days before the LA tryout. A doctor told her that her vocal cords looked like raw hamburger meat. The director, Hal Prince, wanted her to play Eva as cold and unsmiling, contrary to her.
You know, if that's not too fast, is it? Let me know. Put a 1 in the chat if it's okay on 1.5, or put a 5 in the chat if it's too fast.
Instincts. She had a matinee alternate who she was convinced was gunning for her job, and some of the dancers kept telling her how Elaine Page had done the part in London. I said, stop right there. Let me figure it out for myself, she recalled. So I made enemies in rehearsal. This, she believes, forged her reputation as a prima donna. I had maybe 3 allies in the company, she said. It was Beirut from my dressing room to the stage. I had no support. I faced this trial by fire by myself. I spoke to a former Evita chorus boy who remembered Lupone as a bit of a mess and undisciplined and driving Hal crazy. But he also told a story that validated her sense of being messed with. After a rainy day of rehearsal, he shared a taxi with her, and they became chummy. Then Prince's general manager ordered him to keep his distance from the leading lady. I was very upset. I thought it had come from Patty, that I had offended her. So from that minute on, I absolutely iced her. In retrospect, I realized they wanted to control her by isolating her. The show made Lupone an overnight star. She won the Tony, and everyone from Ava Gardner to Andy Warhol flocked to her dressing room. But she never made peace with the pain. They say it's the way you learn, she said. But is it necessary? It hurts so much. One way she coped with the stress was hockey. On Sunday nights when Evita was dark, Lupone would go to Rangers games at Madison Square Garden, where, the Times reported, in 1982, she became a regular in Section 27AA, right behind the opposition net. She had a standing invitation from a cousin of her neighbors back in Northport.
Thank
David
you.
Ingram, whom she called a Quaker/arbitrage stockbroker/high roller. It was high Greek drama right before my very eyes, she recalled. They were gladiators. Because she was on strict vocal rest off stage, she'd pound the boards without screaming, using her voice only when she was asked to perform the national anthem. It's a great spectator sport, she told me. Baseball bores the shit out of me. So slow. Football, I don't get it, except I like them in their nice tight spandex and their dreadlocks. She did a Mae West shimmy. Lupone would party with the hockey players, and they'd come see her shows. Ulf Nilsson, then a Rangers center from Sweden, told me, if it was a face-off at her end, I could smile and more or less say hello to her while I was playing. Lupone and Nilsson became close. He was the only player who put in his bio that he loved the theater. I probably saw Evita about 10 times, he said, and once I was allowed to stay right behind the stage. The former chorus boy remembered that the athletes Lupone had invited to watch from the wings blocked the actors' entrances, infuriating the cast. The press couldn't get enough of Broadway's breakout star mingling with New York's home team, and rumors spread that Lupone was dating the Rangers' curly-haired Adonis Ronduguay. Lupone says they were just acquaintances. She did date an Edmonton Oiler who broke her heart, but she remembers berating Duguay when he went to Evita and spent part of the show flirting with his agent at the bar. He's now dating Sarah Palin. They're perfect for each other, Lupone told me. They're 2 of the stupidest human beings on the face of the earth. She paused. How do you say stupid without saying stupid? He's a box of bricks. Wow, that's hurtful, Duguay said when I reached him by phone, adding, I can't imagine living my life being so hateful that way. One morning, Lupone called me and asked, what are you doing tomorrow night? Within minutes, she'd used her hockey connections to get us VIP tickets to see the Rangers play against the Toronto Maple Leafs. 7 o'clock puck drop, she told me in a voice memo. We met at a private dining room high in Madison Square Garden. Steve Shirapa, who played Bobby Bacala on The Sopranos, was sitting at the next table and gave Lupone a big hello. Her brother Bobby...
Right
who
on,
died in
Satra.
2022,
Thanks for
played
coming
Sopranos leader
through.
Bruce Cusimano. She tried to order a sherry. No dice. Nobody has sherry, she moaned. Lupone had brought along...
So for the people who are just getting here, this is Patty Lupone, New Yorker interview that we're listening to right now. And it's by Michael Schulman. We did our copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. Fair use is made. And we're doing some commenting and some research. And the reason this is called Who You Calling a Bitch is because in this interview with the New Yorker, not only is the by title talk about how Patty talks about her non-friendship with specifically Audra McDonald. And then further in the interview, she refers to Keisha Lewis, whose Hell Kitchen's Broadway play just got lots of kudos and awards. And she's calling Keisha a bitch because Keisha refers to herself as a vet. And so she's like, oh, that bitch. And so anyway, so this article dropped on May 26th, 2025. So a couple days ago, because we are the halfway mark, you guys, here on June 1st. Welcome to June. And so by the 31st, they had done an open letter. They, as in Audra and Keisha specifically, did an open letter to the Tonys where they were like, we don't want to see that bitch at the Tonys. Calling us bitches, talking about us like this. Like we're her cohorts. You know, like all of this is very unnecessary, actually, if you think about it. So they write an open letter, and then their open letter gets 500 signatures from Patty Lupone, self-proclaimed Broadway broad diva cohorts. So, look, God don't like ugly and very little pretty. So we're about to finish up this article, and then we're going to get into the 5-page freaking open letter. And then we're going to get to her sorry, not sorry. Okay? So let's keep on listening. I love it over here. Thanks for coming through. I know this isn't our usual stuff, but we're well-rounded and cultured over here on the LRGA Curves. Okay? So just indulge me for this Sunday afternoon. And if you happen to have a crumpet about, or if you happen to have a cucumber Sammy with the edges cut off, and you can feed the edges to the ducks later to the geese later at the lake. Yes, out on your stroll when you and your family are getting your evening constitutionals. Okay? So, let's get back to the article. It's almost done here. Thanks for playing.
Pat White, who became her longtime backstage dresser after the 1987 revival of Anything Goes. I remembered White from Lupone's Tony speech for Gypsy, in which she thanked my very own Thelma Ritter friend and wrangler, Pat, who gives me a shot every single night. I don't know what's in it, but I'm giving the performance of my life. The shot joke was White's idea. The people who have become star dressers know how to anticipate and how to diffuse, Lupone said, drawing out the Z sound. A lot of things can upset the equilibrium of an actor, and musicals, in my opinion, are by their very nature a vicious beast. White, a reserved woman in her 60s with a thick Massachusetts accent, agreed. During Sweeney Todd in 2005, White would read out their horoscopes from the Post while Lupone got made up. One night, Lupone realized that White was reading her the wrong horoscope, and White admitted, if yours is bad, I just read you the best one out of all of them. After dinner, we were escorted to the ice, second row, behind the Toronto bench. I'm so happy, Lupone said, giddy, sipping rosé out of a plastic cup through a straw. Her son, Josh, had told her to keep an eye on the Leafs number 34, Austin Matthews. She reapplied her lipstick as the team skated out. I'm going to root for whoever wins, she said. A tenor who had been on Broadway in The Phantom of the Opera came out to sing the anthems. Lupone stood and sang along to O Canada, but grimaced at the Star Spangled Banner, which she finds too martial and hard to sing. Good luck with this one, mister, she grumbled, declining to join in. I predict the Leafs winning, she said as the game began, citing her Sicilian witch instinct. Nielsen had told me that acting and hockey are similar because both require focus. But Lupone didn't see much overlap. It was all sex appeal, she recalled of her hockey fixation. It was rare to have anything in common except for the party that we were going to. Soon she was shouting at the players, take your clothes off, boys. Naked hockey. No cups. I want full frontal. Ha! They have to wear skates, White chimed in. And the helmets. Lupone grunted. Does anyone still wear a hat? The Leafs scored and she cheered. Less so for the Rangers. She'd been turned off by all the USA jingoism. She also disapproved of the Jumbotron. Don't tell me how I should feel. In the fan contest during commercial breaks. Too much shit going on. After the first period, with the Leafs ahead 2-1, she retired to a VIP lounge and recalled her Evita days. At curtain call, she said, her applause would dip after the ovation for Mandy Patinkin, who played the populist narrator, Che. I had to convince myself it was because I was so good in the part that they couldn't make up their minds how they felt about me, she said. People thought I was a blonde bitch, a fascist, a Nazi sympathizer. To make herself feel better, she started performing a midnight cabaret act on Saturdays after the show at the Chelsea club, Les Mousses. She would cover Petula Clark and Patti Smith and let her wild side run free. It was a desire for people to see who I really was. During the second period of the hockey game, she got restless. The fighting is so stupid, she groaned, as two players brawled. They look like idiots. The Leafs scored again, and she wiggled two fingers above her head, her Sicilian witch antennae. I asked her if her affinity for the away team echoed her struggle to win over the audience as Evita. I gravitate toward the unexpected one. I really do, she said. At the second intermission, with the Leafs up 4-2, the announcer welcomed a couple of excited children who had won rides on the Zambonis. Who gives a shit? Lupone bellowed. She had an early flight, so she left. Let me know who wins, she deadpanned. One evening, Lupone was on stage at Symphony Space on the Upper West Side, warming up with the piano. She ran through Fever, Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered, and Anything Goes. But there was a good chance that she wouldn't perform any of them. The concert, Songs from a Hat, was designed like a parlor game. Spectators would reach into a top hat and pull out numbered cards, and Lupone would sing the corresponding songs, mostly showstoppers she'd claimed over her career, such as Don't Cry for Me, Argentina, or The Ladies Who Lunch. An hour later, she reappeared in a glittery black dress. The format cast Lupone as a woman up for a dare. I have no idea what I'm going to sing, she told the crowd, and it's the most fun I have on stage. A woman in the front row picked number 5. Oh God, Lupone said. I did this show on Broadway for 2 weeks. It was As Long as He Needs Me, from Oliver. She had starred in a failed revival in 1984, her first Broadway show after Evita. Her 80s career had its ups and downs. She left Evita after 21 months because I lost my sense of humor, she said. She declined an offer to play Lady Macbeth at Lincoln Center. I said, haven't I just been playing her for 2 years? And instead went into As You Like It at the Guthrie in Minneapolis because she wanted to work with the Romanian director, Liviu Sule. During that show's run, she got kicked out of Prince's nightclub after she screamed at some people who were booing her cousin's punk band. She played Harrison Ford's sister in Witness, but Hollywood's interest in her was intermittent. At one point, she starred in a dead-end TV pilot as a singing ghost who haunts a laundromat. Nearly a dozen fizzled plays after Evita, she was cast as Fantine in the Royal Shakespeare Company's premiere of Les Miserables in London. It was a runaway hit, but she chose not to remain with the show when it went to Broadway, because her experience with the RSC was so perfect that she didn't want to taint it. I've never known whether I've made the right decision, she told the Symphony Space crowd when someone picked I Dreamed a Dream from the hat. In 1989, she went to LA to star in the ABC drama Life Goes On as the suburban mother of a son with Down syndrome. For 4 years, she wrote in her memoir, I played a docile mom in a patriarchal family. By the series' end, she was bored silly and no longer on speaking terms with her on-screen husband. Scott Whitman was helping her devise a solo act when she landed what seemed like the part of a lifetime, Norma Desmond in the musical version of Sunset Boulevard. It turned out to be the biggest debacle of her career. Her London reviews were mixed. Frank Rich in the Times called her miscast and unmoving. Meanwhile, Lloyd Webber had cast Glenn Close in a concurrent LA production. Lupone thought it was a ploy to gin up a rivalry, and Close's wraith-like approach won raves. Lupone was contracted to follow the role to Broadway, but she found out from Liz Smith's column that she was being dumped for Close. The repudiation, mirroring Hollywood's abandonment of Norma, only deepened her remaining performances in London. I'd felt rejection, but not that kind of rejection, Lupone said. Years later, at a Kennedy Center tribute to Barbara Cook, Close took a seat next to Lupone. She said, I had nothing to do with it, Lupone recalled. I wanted to go. Bullshit, bitch. The recovery was hard. Lupone took out her fury on her husband, Matt Johnston. It almost broke up our marriage, she said. They'd met when she was playing Lady Bird Johnson in a TV movie, and he was a camera assistant. They married on the set of Anything Goes. She went on Prozac. After a hike one day, a blood vessel in her left vocal cord burst, and she needed surgery and intensive rehabilitation. It's almost like she had to start from scratch, recalled Whitman, who directed her in a 1995 concert run, Patti Lupone on Broadway. Despite stray successes, a stint as Maria Callas in the play Masterclass, a topless role in Spike Lee's Summer of Sam, by the early 2000s, her agents couldn't get her seen for a TV pilot. Her comeback came courtesy of Stephen Sondheim. They had socialized in Connecticut, where both had houses, but, she said, I thought he hated me. He once slammed a door in her face. Sondheim liked getting stoned in her barn with her husband. She played Mrs. Lovett in an acclaimed Broadway revival of Sweeney Todd. The actors played their own instruments, allowing Lupone to show off her tuba chops. And then Madame Rose, the mother of all stage mothers, in Gypsy. She brought brass and rage and woundedness to Rose, a woman whose struggles, much like Lupone's, are as self-perpetuated as they are riveting. Heading into her 60s, Lupone was on a high, her salty bravado now part of her legend. During her penultimate performance in Gypsy, she stopped the show to scold a photographer. How dare you? Who do you think you are? The photos were part of a planned magazine feature. But whatever. Her newfound cachet, coupled with her adventurous tastes, brought her to unexpected places. Jack Schaefer, the creator of Agatha All Along, was looking for a Patti Lupone type, before realizing that she could get the real thing. She's infiltrated all these counterculture spaces, Schaefer said. Ari Aster cast her as Joaquin Phoenix's mother, Mona, in Beau is Afraid, after seeing her on Broadway in Mamet's The Anarchist. I'd written for Mona an endless, withering monologue that was meant to be very theatrical and histrionic and grandiloquent, while also being born of a real deep pain and anger, Aster told me. Her sudden appearance also needed to function as something of a punchline, and having the architect of Beau's misery be Patty Lupone really made me laugh. Since the 80s, Lupone has been based in Connecticut. Years ago, she and Johnston got a flock of chickens and named them Marilyn, Rita, Eartha, Foghorn Leghorn, and the fabulous Miller sisters, Pia, Alexandra, and Marie Chantal. All but 3 were massacred in a raccoon attack. It was horrific, Lupone said. There was blood and feathers and guts all over the place when my husband heard me screaming. He came down in this Victoria's Secret underwear, barefoot. We looked in the hen hut, and there was the raccoon, basically looking at us, going, I ain't finished. In the city where Lupone is the apex predator, she keeps a sparsely decorated apartment on Central Park West, the site of raucous New Year's Eve parties. The guest list runs from John McEnroe to Cola Scola. I asked her, what's the vibe of the party? Aubrey Plaza recalled. She went, oh, you know, cops and showgirls? It was at this apartment that I met her one Saturday at noon, bearing a bottle of sherry. Lupone had laid out strawberries, chocolates, and nuts. Look at our little spread, darling, she said with mock grandeur. She just returned from the GLAAD Awards in LA, after which she hit a gay bar with the trans TikTok star, Dylan Mulvaney. I talk to myself a lot, she told me. Why? Don't ask me. But I actually talked about Hal Prince in my head today. The conversation was about how he had tormented her during Evita. That stuff doesn't go away. It sits there going, why? As much as quarrelsome defiance has become part of her persona, it was striking to hear that it lingers even when she's alone with her thoughts. As she sipped her sherry, a lifetime of grievance and self-pity, all evidence of her success to the contrary, seemed to well up in her. I was dealt a hard hand in everything, she lamented. So I say this life is about figuring that out. The next life is going to be easier. She went on, we start in life vulnerable, then we are accosted, and then we put up the barriers, we put up the armor. I've never lost my vulnerability, so the shot continues. I firmly believe this. It's better to fail because you learn so much more. If you are anointed, you have nowhere to go. Failure makes you investigate. Failure moves you to the next step. In the meantime, the battles were unrelenting. She had told me about co-starring with Mia Farrow in the 2-woman play, The Roommate, last fall. There was a little bit of bullshit that went down, and then I washed my hands of a couple of people in the business. One of them, I found out later, was a press agent who, after an offstage blow-up, grabbed a bottle of champagne from his office and gave it to Lupone to make amends. He did not realize that the label read, Happy Opening, Sunset Boulevard. The Roommate shared a wall with a neighboring show, Hell's Kitchen, the Alicia Keys musical, and sound would bleed through. At her stage manager's suggestion, Lupone called Robert Wankel, the head of the Schubert organization, and asked him if he could fix the noise problem. Once it was taken care of, she sent thank you flowers to the musical's crew. She was surprised then when Ketcha Lewis, an actress in Hell's Kitchen, posted a video on Instagram speaking as one veteran to another, and called Lupone's actions bullying, racially microaggressive, and rooted in privilege, because she had labeled a black show loud. Oh my God, Lupone said, balking, when I brought up the incident. Here's the problem. She calls herself a veteran? Let's find out how many Broadway shows Keisha Lewis has done, because she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. She Googled. She's done 7. I've done 31. Don't call yourself a vet, bitch. The correct numbers are actually 10 and 28. But who's counting? She explained of the noise problem. This is not unusual on Broadway. This happens all the time when walls are shared. I mentioned that Audra McDonald, the Tony-decorated Broadway star, had given the video supportive emojis. Exactly, Lupone said. And I thought you should know better. That's typical of Audra. She's not a friend. Hard D. The 2 singers had some long ago rift, Lupone said, but she didn't want to elaborate. When I asked what she had thought of McDonald's current production of Gypsy, she stared at me in silence for 15 seconds.
Wait.
Then she turned to the window. The Tony-decorated Broadway.
What did she say
the correct
now?
numbers are actually 10.
So this is the whole part that it got to. This is why the open letter happened. So she's telling about this. She's telling about that. And did you notice that in every story she tells, she's right? But yeah, you know, if the people are talking in a restaurant, she can use a bullhorn. But then if they're talking too loud, people are so rude. We're having a conversation. It's weird, right? And so now we're to the end where she is about to say, here, let me get down there, because I was listening along. Ooh. And I have my computer the long way. Dang. I might have to scroll way far back up to... Okay. Is this it? Okay, so oh my God, she calls herself a veteran. So this is where it starts. In the meantime, the battle's unrelenting. She had told me about a co-star with Mia Farrow in a 2-woman play called The Roommate last fall. There was a little bit of bullshit that went down. And then I washed my hands of a couple of people in the business. One of them I found out later was a press agent after a blow up, grabbed a bottle of champagne from his office, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So he didn't realize that the label had read Happy Opening Sunset Boulevard. The roommates shared a wall with a neighboring show called Hell's Kitchen, the Alicia Keys musical, and the sound would bleed through. At her stage manager's suggestion, Lupone called Robert Wankel, the head of Schubert organization, and asked him if he could fix the noise problem. Once it was taken care of, she sent thank you flowers to the musical crew. She was surprised when Keisha Lewis, the woman in the purple right here, in our curtain call, Keisha Lewis, an actress in Hell's Kitchen, which, like I mentioned, just got like best music or something like that, and posted a video on her Instagram speaking as one veteran to another, and called Lupone's actions bullying, racially microaggressive, and rooted in privilege because she labeled this black show loud. Oh my God, Lupone said, balking when I brought up the incident. Here's the problem. She calls herself a veteran. Let's find out how many Broadway shows Keisha Lewis has done, because she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. She's Googled. She's done 7. I've done 31. Don't call yourself a vet, bitch. The correct numbers are actually 10 and 28, but who's counting? She explained of the noise problem. This is not unusual on Broadway. It happens all the time when walls are shared. I mentioned that Audra McDonald, the Tony-decorated Broadway star, had given the video supportive emojis. Exactly, Lupone said. And I thought, you should know better. They put this in italicized parenthesis, an italicized slant, okay? That's typical of Audra. She's not a friend. Hard D. What? Like she's a friend, not a friend? Oh, the two singers had some long ago riff, Lupone said, but she didn't want to elaborate. When I asked what she had thought of McDonald's current production in Gypsy, she stared at me in silence for 15 seconds. Then she turned to the window and sighed, what a beautiful day. It was, okay, so that's where we are. I'm going to let this guy finish reading it though real quick. Because I'm like, really, bitch? Okay.
And 28. But who's counting? She explained of the noise problem. This is not unusual on Broadway. This happens all the time when walls are shared. I mentioned that Audra McDonald, the Tony-decorated Broadway star, had given the video supportive emojis. Exactly, Lupone said. And I thought you should know better. That's typical of Audra. She's not a friend. Hard D. The two singers had some long ago rift, Lupone said, but she didn't want to elaborate. When I asked what she had thought of McDonald's current production of Gypsy, she stared at me in silence for 15 seconds. Then she turned to the window and sighed. What a beautiful day. It was. In Central Park, New Yorkers were strolling among the apple blossoms. Oh, people sitting by themselves, lonely as hell, Lupone observed, peering from her window. Ha! Just lonely as hell out there. She was ready for a nap. As I walked out, she announced, I, my darling, am taking to my bed.
Well, so that was the Lupone article, right? Interesting. So she had all that to say in her article, you guys. Thanks for coming to LRGA Curves. Smash that like button. Smash the subscribe button. We're getting some cultured beef today. Because it's from Broadway, you guys. Having some strawberries. Okay. So now we're going to get at this open letter. Let me see. This open letter. Oh, they wrote it May 30th. Hey, Joanne. Thanks for coming through. Woo! This is long and the font is what? Pica 10. What is this? A newspaper? I'm going to get it as big as I can right here. because I'm going to have to read this. This doesn't have a guy to read it for us. So, me. Bear. See, my lips are tight right now. I should have been practicing. Me. Oh. Red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, the leather. Red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather. Okay. Maybe I'll pronounce all the words right, you guys. So this is an open letter from the Broadway theater community, bitch. Patty Lupone. Mighty high up on that horse, that article sounded, Derlin. Mighty high up on the horse. Okay. You had all of that to say in that article. You were high and mighty on your horse, looking down at all the peasants. Oh, look at them. Their flowers can't touch my feet. Okay, bitch. Really, bitch? I told you the shirts are coming today. I already have a link in the description for this video to current merch. The Really Bitch line is coming next, okay? Because that article we just listened to got this letter from the Broadway theater community written on May 30th, 2025 in response to the 26th article. So 4 days later. To the American Theater Wing, the Broadway League, and the greater theater community. This is not a petition. This is an open letter, a collective call to our community. We write not to shame or isolate, but to speak with honesty, clarity, and care. This is a call for accountability, justice, and respect, rooted in the love of the art form and for the people who make it possible. We believe our community can do better. We believe we must do better, especially when harm is done to those who have given so much to this industry. Yes. Recently, Patty Lupone made deeply inappropriate and unacceptable public comments about two of Broadway's most respected and beloved artists, Keisha Lewis and Audra McDonald. In a published interview with the New Yorker, she referred to Keisha Lewis, a black woman, a 40-year veteran in the American stage, as a bitch. This language isn't only degrading and misogynistic, it's a blatant act of racialized disrespect. It constitutes bullying. It constitutes harassment. It is emblematic of the microaggressions and abuse that people in the industry have endured for far too long, too often without consequence. To publicly attack women who have contributed to this art form with such excellence, leadership, and grace, and to discredit the legacy of Audra McDonald, the most nominated and awarded performer in Tony Award history, is not simply a personal offense. It's a public affront to the value of a collaboration of equity and mutual respect that our theater community claims to uphold. Let us be clear. This is about more than one person. Oh, I like it when it's blue. Let's do that. Let's be clear. This is about more than one person. It's about a culture, a pattern, a persistent failure to hold people accountable for violent, disrespectful, or harmful behavior, especially when they are powerful and well known. This is not about deferring opinions. This is about public actions that demean, intimidate, and perpetuate violence against fellow artists. It is about the normalization of harm in an industry that too often protects prestige over people. We've seen when this happens, this abusive behavior is finally brought to light. Scott Rudin and Walter Roby, who both faced public backlash, professional consequences professional consequences and ostracization after repeated reports of mistreatment and misconduct. These movements proved that the theater community can act when it chooses to, but accountability should not be the exception. It must be the rule. We cannot continue to welcome back those who harm others simply because of fame and perceived value. This must stop. We will no longer tolerate violence, verbal, emotional, or physical, against artists within our own community. No more free passes, bitch. I added the bitch part. No more free passes. If our industry is truly committed to equity, justice, and respect, then those values must be applied consistently, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. No artist, producer, director, or leader, regardless of legacy or celebrity, should be allowed to weaponize their platform to belittle, threaten, or devalue others without consequence. Period. This fan isn't helping. Let me turn this fan off. The American Theater Wing, the very institution that presents the Tony Awards, states that its mission is to champion brave, creative voices, support excellence in artistry, and to celebrate theater that impacts American culture. Among its core values are validate diversity, celebrating stories of diverse American people, championing creative expression, advocating for artists' rights to speak through their work, support growth and create connections, nurturing and respecting artists at every stage of their career, make excellence known and inspire artistic greatness by honoring and uplifting extraordinary contributions to the art form. Let me get these other glasses. I feel like these have a scratch. You ever get a scratch like right where you don't need it on your glasses and you're like, really, bitch? Yeah, that happens. So thanks again for tuning in. We're reading this letter. They got 500 signatures to that saucy little interview. Oh yes, much, much better. Thank you, God. Okay. So when artists use their platform to degrade, demean others, especially those who embody excellence and leadership, and they violate every one of these values, that behavior disrupts community, undermines mentorship, and erodes trust. If these values are more than empty statements, then this moment demands a meaningful and visible response. They are crossing the T's and dotting the I's on this letter, y'all. We call on American Theater Wing and Broadway League to take immediate action, not only in response to Patti LuPone's comments, but in establishing a broader standard of accountability moving forward. Individuals, including Patti LuPone, who use their platform to publicly demean, harass, or disparage fellow artists, particularly with racial, gendered, or otherwise violent language, should be not welcomed at the industry events, including the Tony Awards, fundraisers, and public programs. Participation, recognition, and attendance at high-profile events must be contingent on conduct that reflects community values. This includes completion of comprehensive anti-bias and restorative justice programs before re-entry into public-facing spaces. Ooh, that sounds like they're taking notes from who does that for the people? Oh, the ADL. Sounds like they taking notes from the ADL. Y'all aren't saying nothing disparaging about us no more. Look at that. You're going to have to do some restorative, comprehensive anti-justice like Kyrie did. You're going to have to get it together before you come over here trying to talk to us again. We're going to need to make sure you understand that the words that are coming out of my mouth the harm that they cause, and you need to take accountability and go to these classes, and then you come talk to me later after I get your certificate of completion. Ooh, they not playing, y'all. They not playing. This includes completion of comprehensive anti-bias or restorative justice programs before re-entry into public-facing spaces. Theater institutions must adopt and enforce clear, transparent policies for addressing harmful behavior regardless of the individual's fame or tenure in the industry. That basically saying just because you old doesn't mean you can get away with saying anything. Because, like when you get to a person of a certain age, you just feel like you can say what you want to say when you want to say it. And most of the times you can. But not in a New Yorker article where you're going to disparage what I've done. No, no, no. So the letter continues with, this would not be tolerated in other industries. In 2021, the NFL fined Washington Commanders $10 million and removed Dan Snyder from day-to-day operations after toxic workplace culture came to light. Will Smith was banned from the Oscars for 10 years after slapping fellow artists during the live broadcast. These organizations acted swiftly to preserve their values and integrity of their communities. Why should Broadway hold itself to a lower standard? This is not about canceling anyone or condemning them. It's about care. Care for our artists, our values, and the future of our shared craft. We write because we want this community to thrive, not just in box office numbers or critical acclaim, but in integrity, safety, and mutual respect. We envision a theater industry where all artists, including Black women, are protected, valued, and celebrated. Where excellence is met with recognition, not hostility. Where harm is addressed, not ignored. Where no one is forced to choose between their artistry and their dignity. Our industry is under threat. The arts are being defunded. Theater programs are disappearing. And artists are being pushed to the margins. We need each other now more than ever. We need community, we need leadership, and we need accountability. To the Keishas and the Audras of our past, present, and future, you are the soul of this community. We honor your brilliance, your resilience, your impact. You deserve more applause. You deserve protection. You deserve respect. To the leaders of our industry, a brief injustice, equity, and inclusion must mean something, not just statements, not just programming, but in how we act when these values are tested. Accountability is not an attack, it's an act of care. We're calling for action, not to punish, but to protect, not to divide, but to strengthen. A stronger, healthier, more equitable Broadway is possible. One where all artists are treated with dignity, safety, and respect. This is a call grounded in commitment. Commitment to the community we claim to be. To the values we profess to uphold. And to the future we have the power to shape. One rooted in equity, accountability, and collective care. Let us move forward together, not in silence or avoidance, but with courage and clarity, so that our community can truly succeed and thrive without inflicting violence or harm. Sincerely, members of our Broadway community. So the letter is actually 2 pages that I just read. That was only 2 pages. Can I get a shout out for my theatrical reading of the open letter from the Broadway theater community addressing that article? Can I get a shout out? Can I get a 5 in the thing? A high five in the chat? If I did great. I think I did great. That was pretty freaking good. My mama always said I was articulate. She raised me to be articulate, you know. Yeah. And she gave me a name that they wouldn't really know what I was until I got there. So between this voice and my name, I got in a lot of doors. And then I get there and they're like, oh, yeah, that job. Yeah. Forgot, just could have called you on your way over, but we didn't have cell phones yet. So we waited till you got here to tell you that what we just talked to you about an hour ago, yeah, that got filled. Oh, so you're that Leah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. What I meant to say when it said you sounded perfect for the part was that, yeah, it's been filled. Uh-huh. Yeah. So, that was 2 pages that I read. I mentioned earlier it was a 5-page letter because the next 2.5 pages are typed signatures of all the people who support this letter. I don't know half the people on here, but I will. It's not in alphabetical order. So I'm not reading all 500 names. But I don't know who Christopher Henry Young is. I don't know who Matthew Keaton is. I don't know who Nicela Vega is. I don't know a lot of these people, but look, I heard when I saw this article this morning that Willard, he signed it, and some other, Courtney Love even signed this, you guys. I heard she was on Broadway before, right? So she signed it. Anyway, I'll see if I can get this. Yeah, let me see. You know what I can do is I'm going to put the link to it in our chat. And you can read it at your leisure. Open letter. Share, copy link. Copy. And then come in here, and then go in here, and then come back here, and then go up here, and then drop it here. So the larger life, that's me, you guys, on my other account. Oh, look, it won't fit. Oh, well. You guys will figure it out. Because it will not fit. So that was the response. And now, you heard all that Patty Lupone had to say in her freaking interview with the New Yorker. I think that the letter I read was they didn't make it very racy. It was all about professional. And it was like, even we're included. And we happen to be black. You know, it wasn't like they weren't trying to start a race war or nothing. They're just like, hey, you know, hey. So Patty has an Instagram that doesn't have a lot on it, actually. But she did. Where'd she go? Here I go. So she did a sorry, not sorry. To me, it's a sorry, not sorry, because she had a lot to say. And even though it was just like one little bitch looking out the window for 15 seconds, isn't it a beautiful day? Instead of giving the most nominated actress on Broadway her kudos. Like, I'm not sure what that could be about. Okay. So now this is Patty Lupone's response. For as long as I've worked in theater, I've spoken my mind and never apologized. That's changing today. I'm deeply sorry for the words I used during the New Yorker interview, particularly about Keisha Lewis, which were demeaning and disrespectful. I regret my flippant and emotional response during this interview, which were inappropriate. I am devastated that my behavior has offended others and has run counter to what we hold dear in this community. I hope to have the chance to speak to Audra and Keisha personally to offer my sincere apologies. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that was written in the open letter shared yesterday. From middle school drama clubs to professional stages, theater has always been about lifting each other up and welcoming those who don't belong anywhere else. I made a mistake. I take full responsibility for it. And I'm committed to making things right. Our entire theater community deserves better. Patty Lupone. So, do you guys think that matched? I'm willing to take it. Whatever. Let things go. I don't want any tumors popping out. I'm willing to let it go. You know, she is an actress. It could have been more Shakespearean. But it's to the point. Maybe she has a young person who's helping her specifically with these posts. And they were like, yeah, but Patty, theirs was 2 pages. You can't have a 2-page apology response because then that's just making it about you. Saying you're sorry and you apologize is real short. Let me do this for you. So that's what we got. That's what we got. Let's see. So, what do you guys think? What are your comments? Thank you, Palaver. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, Mel. 5s across the board. Love it. Patty has been a mega Karen forever. Don't like her. Now she comes for Auntie Audra. Yes, she did. Yes. Now, Mel, can I add the link now? No, it won't let me add that. I didn't have a link for this one, did I? Can I do something inside? No, I can't do that there. Let's see. X off that. Yeah, it's not letting me. What's in here? Highlight, save in your channel. Okay, no problem. Is there anything else I can do? Right on, right on. I would like Mel's perspective on this. I don't know if you're around Mel, but I can stop and come right back if you promise to come right back too. If you'll come right back, because this is over an hour already. And okay, so I'm going to end this, you guys, and we're going to come back for part 2. Thanks for smashing buttons and ringing bells. We'll see you for part 2 in a second. And Mel is going to come up because I'm going to be able to drop the link and hear his thoughts because, you know, he's in New York undercover for us. Okay, Curvies, see you very soon. Thanks for the support in this video. I know it was a different topic, but I love Broadway. I love musicals. I love arts. And this was fascinating. I loved it. Okay, see you in a minute.